So yesterday, the Arena Night Balance team released a blog post regarding the October 8th balance patch. I'm Summer, and let's take a look at the notes, and especially how it will impact the current meta builds, and of course, how it will impact my previously released build guides. So let's jump right in. And there we have already in the general changes quite a lot, which is really surprising. They will adjust celestial equipment, so it will no longer grant you concentration and expertise in world versus world only. This will heavily impact builds I posted videos about, so be sure to stick around to the video section. Then we jump into the class section. So I will quickly go over what is happening. I don't go into the details for the most part here. You can check out the blog post for yourself if you want to read all the changes. Link is in the description below. So we have some buffs to Dagger of Elementalist in PvP and World vs. World, that is. That's mostly some damaging cooldown changes, but it's straight up buffs, so it will be nice for example, Catalyst, but also Tempest, which both can use Dagger to quite a good amount. But I'm not sure if it will be enough to really bring it up to where it needs to be to, let's say, really be meta, but let's see. I think it's a good direction, definitely. Then they also will buff some spear skills for Ellie, which is quite good, because I think spear was not the best weapon in World vs. World. And then we have some nice changes to Tempest. They really want to push support Tempest more, and therefore they will now give stability instead of Fury to Rebound, which is nice because Rebound is already a strong skill, and now it will also give stability, so you have even more stability active. That's just quite nice, and it's really easy, especially you don't need to be in Earth to get stability now for your team. Really good. And then you have Wash the Pain Away, which will now cleanse conditions on every pulse. It pulses 3 times, so it will cleanse 3 conditions, which is really good if, let's say, the allies are in range. So it will. That's one thing that Tempest had a problem with. If you didn't run fire, or even if you did, you have not that many condition cleanses at a single time, and this will help with that, of course. For Weaver, we have some changes to PvE. I think that's okay. It's nothing special. And then we have some interesting changes to bolstered elements. I think that's definitely a good change, because this trait was really weird, because you had a really long internal cooldown on the one part of it, and now it's more like it's on elite skill cast, therefore it's way more accessible. You can calculate when you want to use it, and also the protection duration is up, which is really nice. So I think that's a nice buff. I'm not sure if it's really enough to use Weaver in competitive settings, for example Fire Weaver, but let's see. Catalyst, they will rework it in PvE mostly, so that you get even more, energy to spend, and also more accessible quickness generation. So I think it's actually a good build now to use as a quickness build. Before it was rather hard to use. Engineer, nothing special here. I feel like it's just some buffs across the board, and to some underused skills for the most part, which is good. I feel like that's what a balance patch should do. They also give might to Scrapper, which is nice, because that's a boon did not have access to easily. So that's really helping the quickness and heal Scrapper builds. And Holosmith, some changes to, let's say, crystal configuration, but it's not especially a game changer. I think it's nice, but nothing special. For Guardian, also the same, some buffs to some underused skills, but also, let's say, the Hold the Line skill gets now ammunition. I think that's a good change. It makes underused shouts really, let's say, much more useful. I'm not sure if it's meta, but it's probably a good skill now. Before it was just a bad skill. And then we have Honorable Staff. That's actually a trait we used before, and now it will not longer grant concentration while wielding a staff, because it was conditional, and I think that's not something you want. Now it will cost in power to grant endurance to allies, which is really strong. Because endurance gives you more dodges, and if you can give that to pressured allies, that's even better than having concentration for the most part. Then this trait, that's actually something I really fear actually, that this is too strong. So this will no longer grant Dragon Hunters damage reduction, but it will heal them when they block an attack in addition to removing a condition, which is, I think, could be really strong in PvP, because if the heal is really high, it can lead to some really bunkery playstyles, and that's not good, I feel like. But let's see before I make any Doomer comments here. Yeah, and then Willbender, nothing increase. It's nothing special here. So Mesmer gets some X buffs, yeah, nice. Nothing special here. Mirror gets a healing increase, yeah. I think this heal has a hard time to be run even after the buffs. But okay, let's see. Then let's say some buffs to general skills from Mesmer. Nothing particularly, let's say, used. I think it's okay to decrease the cooldowns there. And yeah, then some Mirage changes to some skills, but also they are not, I think, not that impactful. Let's see how it works. I think Ether Barrage could be used in PvE for more damage. I think that's a good thing, but in overall, I think that's nothing special. Necromancer gets also some buffs to a lot of underused skills, really nice. But the main thing here is that they nerfed Transfusion. Transfusion no longer teleports down allies to the user, so I think this trait is actually dead. It's made heal Scourge in PvE and also in World vs. World, let's say, nice repositioning of downed bodies. It's not longer valid and you can't do it, and therefore this trait is actually hard nerfed, and I think that's also a killer to heal Scourge in PvE. So that's interesting change. I did not anticipate that, but let's see how it turns out, if it's a good change. But I feel like some Necro players could be upset about that. Then they buff Reaper, so the Power Reaper gives you some healing now, even when you're in Shroud with this trait. Really interesting, but nothing special. And they buffed Harbinger, which is interesting, because I think Harbinger is a good build, and I think now the health decrease is lower, which is makes it more tanky, of course, and therefore it's really nice, I think. Let's see how it turns out. Ranger didn't get much at all. I think it's nothing special. Some underused skills get some cooldown reductions and buffs, and nothing special, really. I can't talk that much about Ranger. And let's go to Revenant. Some buffs. Actually, I think Sword 2 gets buffed, which is interesting. Maybe that helps Power Heralds. And some buffs even to healing of your, let's say, healing trait line. Let's see if that helps, if you really follow the Frenchies and try to make some support Herald or support whatever Revenant build viable. I think that could help. I think it's actually quite huge changes, so let's see if that is enough. Then some changes to buff Herald, because Herald is, let's say, Power Herald is not that good at the moment. And some Renegade buffs. I feel like that is not the way to go, at least in PvP. It's a menace, so I hope that it's not coming back. But let's see. And then we come to Thief. I think Thief gets some quite nice changes to, let's say, even some use skills. I think Shadow Refuge could be used as a really nice healing skill now for some support specters. It's really nice. But most of the things is not as special. I think they even wanted to address some Spectre gameplay and some X-Thief gameplay, but it's not that impactful. Let's see if it's enough, but no. And then we have Warrior, some rival buffs, and some buffs to shout skills, which is interesting to the limit. But really nice changes. I think that's good. But I feel like Martial Cadence buff is interesting because it was used even in PvP before. So now it's actually a really strong trait. It gives you heal, condition cleanse and stuff. And for your allies, it's really strong actually. So crazy. And then they buff this Heat the Soul trait, which is in PvE it's quickness, and now it also gives might, so it gives you some might uptime in PvE. I think this trait was never run in competitive modes, but yeah. So overall, interesting changes. I think it's a good patch. I think it's not addressing all the issues we have. For example, Warrior got nerfed in a fix patch this week, but I'm not sure if it's enough in PvP with spear and stuff. But now let's jump to the builds. What will change? So of course I released some build guides regarding World vs. World. So some Celestial builds are heavily impacted by the change. So we have Harbinger build, and that's of course heavily impacted because you have lower concentration and expertise. So your damage and your defense is let's say lower without these things. I think you can still run it, but it's definitely worse. So be aware of that, and if you want to enjoy it while it's not nerfed, be sure to play it before the 8th of October. So it's almost 1 month you have left to play this. The same for the Signet Catalyst build. It's also heavily reliant on expertise and concentration to be strong. Now it will still be worth it to run Celestial, but it's way worse. So therefore I think the same as with the Harbinger, try and play it as long as you can before it's get nerfed. And then we have the support build, the staff build. I think it's also getting nerfed. The expertise is not that impactful for this build, but the concentration is actually quite a, let's say, sad part, because you rely heavily to give stability, regen, and might, and you will lose quite a lot of uptime of protection as well. So I feel like that's really a bad thing. So you probably will also not run this anymore. Yeah. So regarding PvE, this patch is mostly buffing stuff in PvE, but the previously released on already live patch which did come this Tuesday, nerfed a lot of damage output from Revenant with Spear in PvE mostly, and therefore this only PvE actually, and this decreased the Revenant Spear I think to 45 or something K DPS, the build I released, so it will be much lower than it was before, but it's still a really strong build for DPS, and it's really easy to play, I feel like. Therefore I think the build is still very good and you should still run it if you enjoy it. Regarding the Warrior nerfs in PvP, in the competitive modes and PvP mostly, so the Defiant stance get 1 second less in PvP. I think that's not enough, but still. A lot of others, for example, staff skills got nerfed, so to reduce the sustain of the staff spear build, and also some spear nerfs, but in general I think the staff build is now less scary because it's just a tank and doesn't do that much anymore. But this, because also the spear got nerfed, so that the that you have to get hit by the initial hit, and then after that the 4 skill can do some follow-up damage, which is much more easy to dodge, therefore. And also the power did go way lower, almost half, and therefore it's not that strong anymore. So I feel like the tank build does not dash out that much damage anymore, and it's just a tank, and even the tankiness is going down. But I feel like Spear is still very strong. You can chain so much evasion with full counter and your Spear skills that it's still a really strong thing, especially with the push game mode now, where you want to stand on node and contest the capture point. So I feel like Warrior is still very strong, and I feel like this patch didn't go as far as it should have to bring it back in line. So the Warrior build guide I put out is still very valid. And also the Revenant build guide for PvE is still very well. They didn't touch Mesmer at all. They even buffed it by fixing this issue. So in general, Mesmer is still very strong in PvE, especially the Virtuoso power build. And regarding all the other PvP builds I released, I think they are still very valid, especially the Harbinger buff will increase the Harbinger usefulness, and also might create some new builds for Necromancer. And be sure to check out future build guides of me if you are enjoying some build crafting here. And I also feel like maybe some Dagger Elementalists could be a run in the future, in PvP for example. So if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like. And if you found this helpful and want to see some, let's say, changes to my build guides and even new build guides that follow up on this patch, be sure to subscribe. And thanks a lot for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.